Hi class. This week we're looking at groups and organizations. Now, as one contemplate groups, there is such a thing as the nature of groups. In looking at the nature of groups, we find out that groups require regular interaction amongst its members. Groups require structured interaction where each person assumes a status and each person adopts a role within that group. Within every group, there is an agreement on the norms, the goals, and the values of the group. And groups groups have a shared sense of identity. So here, even though we're in this online platform, we're all here taking the same class with the same medium at the same time with the same professor. We all want to do well in the class. We all believe in education, and that's why we're here. We meet at regular time. Regular time meaning that we're online between Friday night or Friday morning and Thursday night. At some point in time, we're making posts. So we're doing things together as a group. Now, group decision making is not automatic. Group decision making involves 4 stages: orientation, evaluation, elimination, and restoration of the equilibrium. During the orientation phase, group members basically chit-chat, get to know each other. Hi, how are you? I'm so and so. So during the orientation, you're trying to identify commonalities amongst the group members. After you have sufficiently introduced yourself, you move on to look at the assignment that you're expected to complete. And that is evaluating the possibilities. So you take the assignment and you try to figure out what is being asked of me. And you try to process that. Then gets to the more technical part of the assignment, where now you have to eliminate less desirable options and select options that seems best for the assignment. So let's say you're in a group and you're doing a group assignment, right? It's at this stage that the group decides, okay, what are we going to include in this assignment? What are we going to leave out? This stage is a very difficult stage because decision making on any level can be challenging. But once you're through with this stage, the group goes back now to the concept of restoration of the equilibrium, where the group goes back to being friendly, they go back to chit-chatting, they go back to where they started. There are different types of groups. The 5 types of groups that we're going to take a look at includes the in-group, the out-group, primary group, secondary group, and the reference group. The in-group is the group to which you belong and you feel like you belong. You're a member of a family. Nobody has to tell you you're a member of the family. You know you're a member of the family. You feel like you belong to the family. The out group is a group where you feel like you're a misfit. You're a part of the group, but somehow you don't feel like you belong. So going back to the family again, have you ever heard of the concept, the black sheep of the family? You belong to the family, but somehow you don't feel like you fit in. Then we have the primary and the secondary group. The primary and secondary group was established by Charles Cooley. And Charles Cooley argues that for the primary group, it's the exact opposite of the secondary group. So the primary group requires continuous face-to-face interaction. They share a strong personal identity, there's strong ties of affection, and the relationship is meaningful or multifaceted. What do I mean by multifaceted? So I have a 5-year-old child, and for that 5-year-old child, I am mother. But as the child goes older, the child is now 7, the child is in school. Once the child is in school, the child gets in trouble in school, and I become the child's advocate. The child is now 15, 16 and is ready to go to the prom. I become the financier or the bank. I become the chauffeur. Still mother, but as time goes on, I play multiple roles in that child's life. On the other hand, the secondary group is the exact opposite, which means then that there's limited face-to-face interaction, there's modest or weak personal ties, weak sense of identity. The relationship is limited or shallow at best, and these relationships tend not to be enduring. So if you wanted an example of a primary group, family. If you wanted an example of a secondary group, school, where you have your classmates. You see them this semester and you never see them again. And finally, we have reference group. The reference group was established by Robert Morrison. And the reference group is a group to which you identify, though you don't necessarily belong. So I don't own a fur coat, not because I'm an animal rights activist, but I don't own a fur coat because I can't afford it. I don't eat meat, not because I'm a vegetarian, but I don't eat meat because when I eat meat, I break out in hives. So it seems like I'm a vegetarian, but in reality, I'm not. I don't eat meat because I'm allergic. In looking at group survival, group survival is not automatic. So here, Rosabeth Cantor says that group survival involves sacrifice, investment, communion, mortification, and transcendence. Sacrifice is where you give something of value in order to be a part of the group. Investment is where you invest resources. It could be money, it could be time, it could be your intellect, just to be a part of the group. Communion means you set aside time to meet with the group. And I know we're in a technological age where when we talk about meeting, it's not necessarily a physical meeting, but it could be through the internet. Mortification. Mortification is where the person kills a part of him or herself to be a part of the group, right? What do I mean by that? A nun, right? A nun is someone who has devoted her life to the church. If you ask the nun, she will tell you that she's married to Christ. She's a bride of Christ. What does that mean for her? It means then that she makes vows of chastity, of poverty, and of obedience. What is chastity? It's simply deciding that you won't have sex, right? But if we step out of sociology and into psychology really quickly, we realize that human beings are sexual beings. So for someone to say, I will never have sex, it means they have to kill a part of themselves in order to fulfill that promise to themselves and to God. Poverty. We're not made to be poor. I mean, well, some of us are poor. Some of us are poor, right? But the reality is, as human beings, we strive to do better. We strive to go higher. That's why you're in school, because you want to go higher in terms of social status. So for someone to wake up and say, wow, it's such a great day to be poor today, we know that there's something wrong with that. That person has to kill that part of them which desires to succeed. Then obedience. We're disobedient by nature. Someone tells you to sit, what do you do? Stand. They say to stand, what do you do? Sit. Because we're born disobedient by nature. And so this nun has to kill all these desires in order to be a part of this group, of this religious group. Then we have transcendence. In transcendence, the person's sense of self is derived from group membership. So if you're a member of the NYPD, you know that you have that blue behind you. And so you're at liberty to do things that the average person won't do, simply because you have the confidence of that blue that stands behind you. Now, moving on from groups, I want us to take a look at bureaucracy. In looking at bureaucracy, we have the ideal bureaucracy, we have the real bureaucracy, and we have failed bureaucracies. Max Weber leads us into looking at what he considers the ideal bureaucracy. The ideal bureaucracy has 5 main components: specialization, a hierarchical structure, rules, impersonality, and rewards based on merit. So in essence, Weber argues that organizations need specialization or a clear division of labor. There are hierarchical offices in which once tasks are divided, it needs a chain of command. Rules govern the organization. An organization cannot be impeded by personal conflicts. So therefore, in order for the organization to be efficient, it has to be impersonal. And rewards are based on merit. So you do something good at work, you get a merit-based reward. And that is the concept of the ideal bureaucracy. Now, there are 2 sociologists, Roethlisberger and Dixon, who said, hey, look, I want to see if Weber's idea of the ideal bureaucracy is really so. So they took one component, and that component was rules, and they said, we want to see if organizations really need rules to survive. And so they did a study of the Hawthorne Western Electrical Plant in Chicago, Illinois, and they looked at 14 men who worked on telephone switchboards. The men were expected to be consistent in work, producing the same in the morning and in the afternoon, and not to exchange tasks. What did they find? They found the exact opposite. The men exchanged tasks. They helped each other. They worked harder in the morning. But then, what they found was that the supervisors knew that these men were not abiding by the rules. What did they do? Nothing. They looked the other way. So, I want to take you for a hot minute to Wall Street. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning. And as you walk, you see groups of men congregating outside buildings, and they're smoking. Do you think their job gives them a smoke break? No. So why are they there? Do you think their supervisors know that they're there? They most certainly do. So why do they allow it? Because they know that chances are, without that nicotine fix, these employees don't produce as much. So they go out, they get their nicotine fix, and they come back and they produce. And what is work all about? Production. And so supervisors will look the other way as long as work is being done. Now, having said that, there are some organizations that are just not efficient at all. They're bogged down in red tape. They're bogged down in inefficiency. And they're bogged down sometimes in a dehumanizing process. So there are four such bureaucratic failures that I want us to look at. One is ritualism. Ritualism prevents people from dealing with new conditions and problems, as it allows for employees to slavishly follow the rules without giving thought as to why the rule was established in the first place. So your driver's license has expired and you go to the DMV to renew your driver's license. They say you need your passport, and you do have your passport. You wait 2 hours in line and you get to the window, and so now you're happy because I'm at the window. The person behind the counter says, "I'm sorry, I can't process your application for a driver's license today." And you're puzzled. Why not? Your passport expired yesterday. Doesn't that make sense, guys? So in other words, what this person is saying to you is, yesterday, according to my passport, I was Marcia Morrison. Today, nobody knows who I am. Then we have Parkinson's law. Parkinson's law is making waste by allowing people to use work to fill time rather than time to fill work. So you get hired from 9 to 5 and you get hired to work from 9 to 5. But it's 3 o'clock, your work is done. What do you do then between 3 to 5? Your employer finds busy work for you to do. Simply because now they're not concerned about work because the work is done. Now they're more concerned with time, that you stay there until 5 o'clock or whatever time you're scheduled to leave. Then we have protecting the inept. This is where some places of employment are reluctant to get rid of an incompetent employee. So you go to the supermarket and the cashier is really very slow, makes a lot of mistakes, incompetent. Do you think the managers don't know? Of course they do. So then why don't they let her go? They might not let her go because she's probably a friend of the manager. They might not let her go because she is African American and they may fear a racial discrimination lawsuit. They might not let her go because she is 75 years old and they fear an age discrimination lawsuit. So for different reasons, an employer may choose to hold on to an incompetent employee even though they know it, but they have reasons for this. Finally, we have the Peter Principle. Have you ever had a teacher that you've considered a really good teacher? And that teacher, because that teacher is so good, they get promoted to being a principal, and it turns out they're a horrible principal. And you wonder, how come they were such a good teacher? Being a teacher and being a principal require two different skill sets. And sometimes employers don't take in account that jobs may require different skill set. So they may move one person from one job to another, not recognizing that the person, while they may be excellent at their previous job, doesn't have the skill set for the new assignments. On that note, guys, thank you very much and have a wonderful day.